Hey guys, how's it going? It's Calvin Raab, and I hope you're having an amazing day today. And this is going to be a fun video, because in this video, I'm going to be going over the pros and the cons of going to UCLA. So I am a senior at UCLA, and I'm studying economics. And in my time here, I've noticed a lot of the great things about UCLA, but at the same time, I've noticed a lot of kind of the cons and things that I think could be improved upon. And in this video, I'm going to talk about both of those. So I reached out and texted a lot of my friends at UCLA and said, hey, I'm making this video about the pros and cons of UCLA. Let me know your thoughts. This is what I've came up with. And of course, let me know if you have anything else that you'd like me to add. And a lot of my friends came back to me with a lot of great ideas, confirming a lot of what I did think and also some other ideas as well. So in this video, I compiled them into the 5 biggest pros and the 5 biggest cons that I see and a lot of my friends see as well. So that's what I'm going to go over in this video. I'm first going to go over the 5 pros, and then I'm going to move into the 5 cons, and hopefully by the end of this video you have a good understanding of what makes UCLA so great, but at the same time how it could be improved upon. So without any further ado, let's get into it. This is going to be a fun video to make, and let's talk about the pros and the cons of going to UCLA. And if you're new here, my name is Calvin Raab. I make videos all about personal finance, so if you're interested in anything like that, I would love it if you would subscribe. Alright, so let's kick it off with the pros. The first pro is that the opportunities are endless, and this is something that makes UCLA so special. And this kind of exists for 2 main reasons. The first reason is the size of UCLA. So once you're at UCLA, you can do anything you want, and the fact that you can find your group. There is something at UCLA for everyone. And what I mean by that is, whatever your interests are, however acute and small they may seem, there is going to be a club and group of kids out there that are interested in that. And that's just because the size of UCLA, you know, with 40,000 plus students, you're gonna find people that have similar interests. And anything you want out of a school, you can get out of UCLA, which is pretty special. So you can find your group, whatever you're interested in. As strange as it may seem, there's probably gonna be a club out there for you. And even once you start looking at the clubs, you start realizing that, you know, there is something for everyone there. And then even outside of clubs, as far as opportunities go, there are so many things that go on campus. UCLA is such a hub of all things academia and really just entertainment also at a large, that there are so many things you can do at UCLA. Anything you want out of a school, you can somehow find it at UCLA and you can do it. And that just has to do with the size of UCLA and kind of its importance here in Los Angeles and different things like that. So as I said, there were 2 reasons that opportunities are endless. I started with the size of UCLA, and the second one is the size of Los Angeles. And this is something that I'm just now kind of realizing as I'm kind of entering this job market and starting to apply for jobs. And anything I want, any job I want or could be interested in, no matter how acute and niche as it may seem, that job exists in Los Angeles. At least for me. I haven't ran into anything where it doesn't exist in LA. And that has been a huge plus for me, knowing that, you know, whatever I want, the opportunities are there. It's not like I'm in a small town where there aren't that many jobs there. I know that anything I want can be here in Los Angeles, and that is something that's very reassuring, and it gives me confidence that, you know, it would be easy to go apply here, and it's not taking a huge risk. I don't have to travel across the country to go to this certain job interview or anything like that. The second pro of UCLA is that so much happens on campus, and this is something that's pretty cool. There is always something going on campus, and this is always something that's always fun, because I'll be walking through campus and all of a sudden I'll see a group of 5 to almost 10,000 people, and I have no idea what's going on, but that just happens so often. There are so many big gatherings, big groups that I know nothing about, and I feel like at most schools, a gathering that large, everyone would kind of know about it. Here, it's just so common. There's a lot of meetups at UCLA, and there's just a lot of things going on campus. There's always performers, there's students advocating for stuff, and the campus is never dead. I've been on campus going to the gym at 6 in the morning, and I've also been on the campus at 11 o'clock at night, and there's always something going on, and I think that's something that's really special about UCLA, and that does exist at other schools as well, but I think definitely something I realized with UCLA. There's always something going on, and there's always traveling exhibits and performers and anything you want to see. You'll never be bored walking around the UCLA campus as far as sports teams practicing or something like that. So I enjoy just walking around campus. If I have some free time and I want to clear my mind or something, you can walk around and you're bound to see something. So that's something that's really cool. There's also a lot of something that really surprised me. This is a little bit of a tangent, but there's a lot of celebrities that come to campus that I personally think is pretty cool. I've seen a lot of YouTubers on campus, and I think I may just recognize them just because I'm in this YouTube atmosphere, but I hear a lot of famous athletes that are coming to campus that are training, a lot of performers and actors, and it's not uncommon. You know, if you go to UCLA and spend a year there, you're bound to see a few famous people. So I think that's something that's also pretty cool and kind of corresponds with that whole campus is never dead, something's always happening idea. Pro number 3 is location. And of course this is in Los Angeles, which means there's probably going to be pretty good weather and everything like that. But more than that, the location within Los Angeles is amazing. So as far as where we're situated, if you take where I live, and I live about a half mile from campus, I walk to campus, and you go up my road, you're going to hit the gates of Bel Air, which is pretty cool. And we're right by Brentwood right there, and it's easy to get to places as far as you're really close to Santa Monica, so a lot of kids go down to Santa Monica. I know me and my roommates, we really enjoy going down to 3rd Street Promenade and shopping and walking around and different things like that. So the location is absolutely amazing, the weather is amazing, and Westwood itself is actually a pretty cool little kind of city as well. So that's also nice, and it's not too crazy and it doesn't get too busy, but it's just a nice little kind of college town. Coming at number 4 is UCLA's reputation. So by and large, UCLA has a good reputation. There aren't too many people that think very negatively of UCLA. And for that reason, I'm always very proud to say that I go to UCLA. And as far as the reputation of UCLA, people have an image in their mind of what a UCLA student looks like. You know, whether that's true or not, I don't want to get too much into the UCLA stereotype, but generally, when people think of a UCLA student, they think very positively. So when I say that, a common reaction that I get is, oh, you must be smart, and kind of something like that. And I don't want to get too much into, you know, whether or not everyone is smart at UCLA or something like that, but it's just as far as the reputation is very nice. You know, UCLA does very well in the rankings. You know, we were named the #1 public university, and it just has a good reputation, and the students do benefit from that. A lot of people, including myself, take great pride in saying we are from UCLA, and everyone knows UCLA. This is something that was new to me. So I transferred to UCLA coming from Gonzaga University up in Spokane, Washington, and a common reaction when I said I went to Gonzaga was, where's that? What is that? You know, is that far from here or anything like that? And I always had to explain where it was, kind of what the school was about. Really, people only knew basketball. So, but that never happens at UCLA. Never once have I told someone I go to UCLA and they're like, where is that? And part of that I know is because the name's actually the Los Angeles is in the name UCLA, but everyone kind of knows it, and I think that's something that is an added benefit. Coming at number 5 is an extensive network. And this is by no means something specific to UCLA, but rather it's really a product of a lot of big schools. And this is really nice because a lot of Bruins stay local in that a lot of them stay and work in Los Angeles or San Diego, and this is where I'm from. And it's really nice as I'm looking for jobs because every time I look up LinkedIn or go on LinkedIn and I find a company that I may be interested in working with, there's almost always some Bruins that work there, and that's really nice having that point of connection. And it's just such an extensive network that so many people know people that go to Los Angeles, and it's nice, or went to UCLA, and it's having that connection with someone. And this is just part of the size of UCLA. I mean, UCLA has 40,000 students or so, pumping out, you know, 10,000 graduates every single year. That's a whole lot of Bruins being pumped into the world, and I think that's something that's really nice, and it really helps me when it comes to networking and different things like that. I've now just gotten into the kind of Bruin professionals, which is sort of the alumni network, and I've been able to network with a lot of them, and it's just amazing the size and scope of the alumni network. Whatever you want, whatever job you want, the Career Center can almost always find you an alumni that is in that field that does that job or something like that, and I think that's something that's pretty special. All right, so we went over the pros. Now it is time to flip it over and go over the cons. And these, of course, are just my opinion. They're by no means just set in fact, so please take them as opinions, and you can totally disagree. That is okay. But let's get into them. Let's go over the 5 cons that I see at UCLA. Coming at number 1 is that the academics are unnecessarily difficult. And I mean this in really 2 facets. So the first thing is the structure of a lot of my major courses. And when I say unnecessarily difficult, I've really only seen this with my major courses, meaning my economics courses have been unnecessarily difficult. As far as my GEs and stuff, those weren't that bad, and I feel like those were fair. But as far as the main major course that I've taken, I do feel that those were unnecessarily difficult, and this is a sentiment that has also been shared by a lot of my friends with their major courses. And the reason for this is really in the structure that academics are built at UCLA. So UCLA does run on the curve, at least these major courses are, which means that a certain amount of A's can be allotted, a certain amount of B's, C's, and a certain amount of kids have to fail. And because of that, this ends up bringing a unnecessarily, almost like toxic amount of competitiveness out, and it makes me not want to help other people, because should they do better, that can actually hurt me. And I think that is a horrible way to run academics. And again, this is just my major courses. In my GEs, I haven't had to be graded on that curve, but it just brings out almost the worst in people. And the fact that no one really wants to help one another, it becomes unnecessarily competitive, leading to just a really bad work environment that everyone is way more stressed than they want, and learning the material no longer becomes the forefront, but rather we're more focused on just getting the grade. And I have been more stressed out at UCLA for just the structure of the way academics are done, that I didn't worry about learning it. I worried about how everyone else would do, and it just brings about unnecessarily stress and anxiety when it comes to the academics. So again, that of course is just my opinion. You know, I know some people that think UCLA academics aren't that bad and things like that. So it's a give or take. And also part of everything being unnecessarily difficult is I've also found, again in major courses, that I always felt that professors don't really care if I failed. And I know they would never say that, but I know a lot of close friends of mine have not passed classes, and it never seemed like the professors cared. You know, they just tried, a certain amount of kids have to fail, and they didn't really care if I learned it or not. They just fulfill their duty by teaching, and I never felt like the professors really cared about me. Now, that could be a product of me, you know, being at a smaller school prior where I had more one-on-one connection, and now I run into courses where there's 350, 400 kids. So I'm sure there's more explanations to it. I'm just giving you from the perspective of a student. I always felt it was unnecessarily difficult, and the professors didn't really care how I did. Coming at number 2 is the demand for resources is too large. Meaning, there are the resources that are out there, but the demand is too high to really make it worth your effort to go after them. So this was best kind of said by my roommate when we were talking about the pros and cons, and he told me that UCLA has anything you want. It has every resource out there for you. However, there's going to be a long line for that resource. And this is something that's so true, because UCLA has great resources for students, but because there are so many students, everyone's trying to take advantage of that, and it ends up being that oftentimes very real long line of that resource. You know, whatever you want. You want to go to office hours, it's going to be packed. You want to take advantage of the career center, there's going to be a long wait list, and it's going to be hard to get in anytime soon. You want to go to the gym, well, it's going to be packed. You want to go and have good food, whether it be on or off campus, it's going to be packed, and different things like that. So that's something that I've realized. Of course, there are ways to kind of mitigate this by going to the gym at less popular hours, going to the career center at less popular hours, going to office hours that aren't that popular, so you can get around it. But there are just so many students that the resources are there, but there's not quite enough of them. Coming in at number 3, and this one out of everything is probably the biggest source of frustration for me, and I've had long conversations with this with my roommates, with my friends, and this is one of my biggest frustrations with UCLA, and that is it doesn't do a good job of preparing you for a job. Now, there is a lot that goes into this, and a lot of this is probably specific to my major. So when I say this, I am speaking from an economics student perspective. I am sure there are other majors that do a totally fine job prepping you for whatever job you want to get after that. But in economics, I personally don't think they do that good of a job. And I think that starts with UCLA's mentality. So UCLA's mentality when it comes to academics is they are all about learning for learning's sake, and they're very focused on having you learn things at a very deep level, and they always talk about graduate school. Graduate school is always the goal, and I think that just comes with the school, that they don't really focus their academics on being that applicable to the real working world. Rather, they want you to learn this at a very, very deep level and go to graduate school after. Whereas a lot of CSUs are more focused on helping you learn things that you'll actually use. And this certainly is not true in economics. You know, I'm studying economics and I am constantly learning things that I will never, ever use in the workforce. And I learn things at such a deep level, and I work so hard on these mathematical concepts that I do find fascinating. You know, I do love economics. However, I know that after this class, I will never use this again unless I do go to graduate school. And I wouldn't be so frustrated with this had they not kind of shared and set up this idea in my mind that economics was this great major that was going to allow you to get so many jobs. Because now that I am looking in the job market, I'm finding that there are a ton of pretty basic skills that you really need if you want to go into the finance business world that we don't learn, but you would learn at really any other school as a business major or anything like that. So I've actually had to go out and teach these myself. You know, I've paid quite a bit of money for online courses to learn a lot of fairly basic financial modeling and a lot of accounting things and Excel and different things like that. Things that usually you would learn in a business environment that we don't learn here in economics. And I do understand that being said, that economics is not a business major, but I always feel like it's kind of, they try to make it seem like that when it's really not. So I wish they were a little more honest with me in the beginning, saying that, you know, you're not going to learn a lot of what's going to be applicable here, and you're just going to learn economics at a very deep level. So I could go on with this forever, really, and just talk about it a long time, and it's just kind of the root source of my frustration now, and I think that's just because I'm working very hard with a lot of my job interviews and stuff, and having to study a lot on the side of things that a lot of other business students at other schools learned right away. So this again is specific to me. So if you're a different major and you see it completely differently, please don't then listen to me. This is just one student's opinion that shouldn't mean too much. So con number 4, and for some people this may be a good thing while others may see it as a bad thing. Personally, I see it kind of as a con, but you can still take advantage of this and you can still have an amazing UCLA time. And that is, UCLA doesn't hold your hand. Now, I don't want to make this sound like I expect a school to completely hold my hand, to give me everything, because that's not how the world works. You know, they're not going to hand me this, they're not going to hand me a job, they're not going to hand me an internship, and that should not be expected of a school. However, UCLA doesn't do a great job of really putting in your face like different opportunities that you may have, and essentially what can happen is two people's UCLA experience can be so different based on, did someone take the initiative and go out of their way? Because UCLA's resources will only work for you if you go and seek them out and you really work for them first. You know, they are not going to come and find you. So I know people that are a little more reserved, a little more focused on themselves, that didn't exactly take initiative and go after courses, that didn't take advantage of the Career Center, and then their UCLA experience is fairly negative. You know, they're frustrated with UCLA that they didn't help them out that much or anything like that. And that's just a matter of UCLA didn't seek these students out, and they didn't do the job of going and seeking out the resources. However, on the flip side, if you are very ambitious, if you're a really go-getter, you can go and take advantage of amazing opportunities that are out there, and you can have an amazing UCLA career. I know people that are extremely outgoing, that are extremely ambitious, and take out every opportunity that's out there, and I like to think that I'm that way, and I think that's one reason I have enjoyed UCLA, and I think the resources are fantastic, but that's because I went out and I found them. And my friends that are really enjoying UCLA, it's because they did the same thing. So it's very easy to pass through UCLA under the radar just as a number, and part of the reason they can't really help you out that much is there are so many students. There's over 40,000 kids at UCLA, so they can't help you and every single person along the way. You have to go out. So the resources are there, you just have to go out and get it. They are not going to hold your hand. I do know there are some other schools, particularly private schools that are a little bit smaller, that really hold your hand through everything. UCLA is certainly not that school. So coming in at number 5, and this one's pretty funny because it really blew my mind when I actually got there, and that is building interior is not that nice, which is funny because UCLA, it is a gorgeous campus. I absolutely love walking around, especially up on North Campus where I spend the most of my time. I love, walking past Poly, walking up the steps to go be there outside Powell and Royce, and it's gorgeous. But when you step inside the buildings, they're pretty gross inside, I'm not gonna lie. And, I'm not someone that is extremely picky that I expect top of the top, I don't want to see a single cobweb anywhere. No, I'm nothing like that. But if you go inside these buildings, some of them are pretty gross, and the bathrooms are just disgusting. Everything looks really old, and it's just funny because it's such a juxtaposition from the outside aesthetic of the school that if you ever go inside, I mean, some examples are the Pub Aft building. I've never been that impressed with. I spent a lot of time in Dodd, if you've ever been on campus. It's kind of on the far end of campus, and that was really gross. The bathrooms are really gross there. A lot of the rooms still run on very old squeaky chalkboards. I took a lot of time studying in YRL, and the upper levels of that aren't redone are pretty gross. Oh, a little quick tip here, if you are a UCLA student and it's midterms or finals season and you need a place to study, but everywhere is just taken up, as I said, resources are there to study, but they're very packed. Go to the upper floors of YRL, the Young Research Library. Now, beware, it can be kind of sketchy and seem very weird up there, and it's always really hot because it's just no air conditioning gets up there, and it's a little gross, but you will find tables to study up there. So that's a little quick tip for you. Just beware, it's kind of sketchy. The elevators are a little scary in YRL. All right, so that was a sidetrack that I did not expect to be on, but building interior is not that nice, and my roommate and I were talking, and we said, all right, if we ever strike it rich and we donate to UCLA, we're redoing the interior of a lot of these buildings to get them up to snuff from exterior to interior. Now, of course, this doesn't really change my academic experience all too much because, interior doesn't really affect me too much. All right, so that will wrap it up. Those are the 5 pros and the 5 biggest cons that I see at UCLA. And I want to kind of end this by prefacing this. Yes, I went over 5 pros and 5 cons, but I do have to say that the total experience at UCLA, in my experience, the pros far, far outweigh the cons. So UCLA, it really does live up to what I think a lot of its reputation is, and it is an amazing, amazing school. I've had the opportunity of, this is my 3rd college now that I've been to, which is kind of crazy to say, but I did a lot of transferring before I ended up at UCLA. So UCLA is an amazing place. I am very proud to say that I'm there, that I go there, that I'm a UCLA student. I will always be proud of being a Bruin, and that's something that I am very proud of, and a lot of kids that are here worked very hard to get here, and there are amazing people here that have absolutely unbelievably smart minds, a lot of outgoing, great, funny. I've met really cool people at UCLA. So yes, there were the same amount of cons as pros here, but that's just really for the reasons in this video. I wanted them to kind of be equal, but UCLA is an amazing place that I am very grateful for. And that being said, I do think there are some things that they could improve upon, as I talked about here. So that will wrap it up. When I was making this video, I actually had the idea for another video, which is the biggest misconceptions about UCLA, because that is something that I wanted to touch upon, and I didn't want to make this video too long, so I made a whole nother video about the biggest misconceptions about UCLA, meaning things that you think about UCLA and you think to be true, but are actually not true. So you can go check out that video, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Lastly, I'd like to know from you, whether you are a UCLA student, a future UCLA student, or someone who is an alumni. I would love to know what your thoughts are below. And you don't even have to be really affiliated to UCLA. Everyone kind of knows it. Let me know what your thoughts are below. Do you think I was too hard on UCLA? Do I think I wasn't hard enough on UCLA? Do you have any other comments on pros and cons? I have a lot more, so I'm actually just going to throw them in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on them, and I really, really look forward to talking to you guys. You know, UCLA plays a very large role in my life, so I look forward to hearing what your guys' thoughts are as well. But if you made it this far, I truly appreciate it. If you're new here, my name is Calvin Raab. I make videos all about personal finance. So if you're interested in anything like that, I would love it if you would subscribe. But that will wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. And as always, my name is Calvin Raab, and I'll see you soon. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. So I'm going to move to the corner of your screen here. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you are going to see my most recent video. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a video that YouTube and I each think that you would like. And if you haven't yet, you can hit my face right here and subscribe. As always, my name is Calvin Raab, and I'll see you soon.